Hello. Yay, this is the first time I've gone live where I haven't said, look, I'm going live. As you can see, I have a better camera, a much better camera. And I have an even better one that's arriving soon. So I hope that this just improves our time together. You can see I've added a lot of blue to the rabbit's eye. And I really see when I zoom in a lot of blue in the skin, as well as a reddish, maybe a reddish brown or a henna, or I have a black grape. Well, that's black raspberry. I'm sorry. And adding these colors along with your yellower jasmine ochre will give a richness to the eye. But I really do see the skin around as being a little more reddish. And then those hairs reflected down. Make sure your pencil's sharp. I didn't sharpen my pencil. And then remember the indigo. The indigo in the iris as well as in the shadow. This bluishness will only help to darken that eye, so that when you go back with your black, it actually, it's that second, like using cream and then white, or light blue and then white. It only makes your white look whiter, and it only deepens the blackness here. Now, I wanted to go over the way I was doing the fur before, since before we were a little bit not so great on the video. I cut it short in our class, but I am using a sort of mineral orange color to brighten the fur. A pale ochre like the jasmine, the sand. This one happens to be a Pablos light ochre, which I don't know why, but I've started to like it a lot. And then often using cream, as I look for my cream pencil, it got underneath, cream rather than white. Now, the way you do fur, and I was trying to explain before, is to lay down some color and then go back, and with the sharp edge of an eraser that you have cut, or with your monotombo, but I would still cut off the tip to it. You go back and you erase into what you've just drawn. Seems silly. It creates not a texture, because this is completely smooth to the touch. But it does take some away, where with your next layer, whether a darker that falls in between, excuse me, that's a little reddish. I should probably use a sepia pencil. Whether it's a darker that falls in between, or whether it's back to your cream or your white, giving it a place to grab onto, a place for it to fall into. Another thing you might want to notice is pressure. In these early stages, your pressure is so light. If I were just laying down some bunny fur here, and so I'm laying down my lighter colors, I should do shorter strokes, but I'm just laying them down in the first layer. I am literally like probably not even moving my skin hardly. That's the light pressure I'm using. Then there's the erasing away. I have to take these strokes out anyway. I like this method because I don't really have to erase my original drawing, because there's erasing. And I find with the Tombow, please use something to brush away the eraser marks, because it'll gunk up and stick to your picture. So now I'm adding my lighter colors and my slightly deeper colors. The jasmine, the mineral orange. And now this is maybe a medium texture. Maybe I'm moving the skin a little bit. It's hard to tell. Pressure is a thing that you get with experience. And you will do this over and over and over. When you get to those deeper layers, like I already have here, then you can take your X-Acto or your slice tool backwards, upside down. I'm holding it upside down. If we're using this as a box cutter, I'd be holding it this way and cutting my box open. I don't want to do that and cut the picture. I'm holding it literally upside down and using this rounded edge, if you have the rounded one, as sort of a scraper and making small marks. This does a couple of things. It does the same as what I was talking about with the Tombow, as well as it cuts the width of your pencil marks in half. Sometimes this being the width of a pencil mark is thicker than a hair. Haha, I'm drawing a rabbit, a hair. And it gives, again, a nice little place for the pencil color to fall into. It starts to build up and truly look like fur. Seems like I'm only working on this area. That is because if you slow down and really work until it looks like the fur, you will be much happier than if you think you're going to draw some pencil strokes that look like fur. That would be like I'm drawing the face and I'm going to do the eyelashes first. If I did the eyelashes first, then I'd have to fit all the skin in between. So all of these preliminary layers of, sorry, I'm going to erase what I just did, of erasing and building up with light pressure, what they do is they're the under fur underneath, and then your little dashes at the end. Yes, we do see the darker hairs in there. Those I kind of fit in between. Sometimes I do them backwards, like they're fitting in between. They're much later, much more at the end to fit those in between. They're not the first thing. The other thing that this can do, this slice tool, is up here where it's dark at the edge, I can take this and not only make this more small, but it also sort of drags the dark pencil, the pigment, out a little bit, and it makes these little tiny hairs. So it scrapes away and it drags. And when it scrapes away or it erases, don't expect you're going to see the paper underneath. You've already stained the paper with this pigment. Okay, so on to the next thing for our class on Sunday, which is, I hope you've transferred your picture, the kumquats. I wanted to tell you that sometimes sketch paper is a little more light than if you use drawing paper. You want to look at the weight. Like this one is 70 pounds. And a Bristol paper, this one says 100. Try and get the Bristol vellum, not the smooth. You can use cardstock too if you don't have any of these things. But again, cardstock can sometimes be very smooth. This illustration paper by Canson, really hard to find anymore, but it's got a beautiful texture. Just a little more gritty than the drawing paper or the Bristol paper. Some people like to use a watercolor paper if you can find a very hot pressed smooth one, or sometimes the back of it is that texture that you can use for. And as I do that, of course, I lose the piece of paper that I was just going to show you, which had your color wheel. Well, someone suggested that I let you know about the colors in the first place so you can look for them. So let me show you. For our drawing this week, It is this 5-color method, and the colors were given in the Faber-Castell colors. So they were geranium, lake. We have a permanent red, or even the scarlet lake is going to be close to what is required there. So if you're using Prismacolor, look for permanent red, Scarlet Lake. I think there's a poppy red, but I think that one has a little bit more blue in it. So you want to look for something that really looks like a cadmium red light. The blue is a cobalt blue. And there is a cobalt blue hue that is just slightly darker, but okay. There's an ultramarine blue if you have an older brand, because I found that the newer ultramarine looks a little bit dark. And China blue is nice. So the newer cobalt blue you might find is a little darker than that. Oh, that was an ultramarine, excuse me. And then the yellow, they're using the cadmium yellow in Faber-Castell, which is like canary yellow, which pretty much any set should have. And then black and white, which is black and white, no matter what brand you're using. While we're here, you should, what I was looking for was my color wheel, which I had out here just a minute ago. And I will surely find as soon as I turn off the video recording. But I thought while you have these out and you are looking at your colors and you have your color wheel print out, you may want to try mixing with these colors and see how much of a red do I have to put in. Get a feel for mixing with these colors, because we're going to be working with them to get an orange. Or how much red and how much blue do I have to put in to get the purple? I know I'm getting out of the screen. Okay, so how much blue and how much red do I need to create a nice purple? That's a nice dark, but I don't know if it's a nice purple. Sometimes you have to add a little bit more blue. And then what about your greens? Try to get a range of greens, maybe even. Because sometimes, you know, boom, that's a nice green. But what about a real yellowy green where you're just very lightly adding a little bit in? Remember, light pressure is like adding just a drop on your palette. And also do the thing where I'm going to mute down this red by just adding a tiny bit of green, which is yellow and blue equals green. So I'm not going to pull out a green pencil. I'm just going to add yellow and blue to this to mute my red, and see if I can pull it all the way into a neutral brown, or just kind of tone it down from a bright red. Please play with these 3 colors that you pick. In whatever brand you have, try and match these colors that I've given you the names for, or just look at them on here and see what colors are coming out. And thank you very much. I'll see you on Sunday.